Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about the process of cell respiration. I'm going to abbreviate it as cell respiration rather than cellular respiration because it's a little bit harder for me to say. So if you remember back to the overview, there are 3 steps to this process. There's glycolysis, the citric acid cycle, and on another page, we will have oxidative phosphorylation. So just keeping in mind where this is happening, glycolysis, which is simply the process of literally breaking glucose. Remember, lyse means to break, and anything glyco is related to glucose in this case. And so this is going to take place in the cytosol. So we have not yet entered the mitochondrion. So we're outside in the cytosol of a cell. And in this process, we're going to take glucose. So this is one of our reactants in cellular respiration. We're going to take glucose and we're going to make 2 pyruvate, 2 ATP, and 2 NADH. Now, if you think back to the equation for cell resp, you might be thinking, well, I don't really remember seeing anything besides these 2 ATPs in that equation. That's right, because pyruvate and NADH are intermediates. So again, they're things that are going to be produced in this particular step, but used in another one. And so here I just wanted to make a note of what's happening with the carbons here. So you had 6 carbons in your glucose molecule. And so if you count all the points on this hexagon, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And then when we break this apart into our 2 pyruvates, your pyruvates, sorry, it was focusing there. Your 2 pyruvates have 1, 2, 3 molecules of sugar and 1, 2, 3 molecules of sugar. Sorry about the focus there. Okay. So once you have your 2 pyruvates, they are going to enter the mitochondrion via active transport. And your 2 ATPs are going to come out of this process, and your 2 NADH molecules are actually going to go all the way to oxidative phosphorylation. And so we'll see that where those end up going in the next couple of cycles. So then I'm going to actually add our citric acid cycle onto the same video because it's on the same sheet of paper. But so once our pyruvate move into the mitochondrion, they're actually going to move not only past the outer membrane into the inner membrane space, but then they're going to pass through the inner membrane into the matrix. So the citric acid cycle is going to take place all the way in the matrix. And again, similar to the Calvin cycle, which you'll see in the photosynthesis videos, there's a lot of steps here. We don't care so much about all the steps. And actually, you'll see I've taken a lot of the molecules and their names out of this process and just kind of given you the nitty gritty, the stuff that we actually care about and that tells us something about what's going on in this cycle. So our pyruvate, before we can actually use it in the citric acid cycle, we have to turn it into acetyl-CoA. So then, going into this cycle is acetyl-CoA and oxaloacetate. And these 2 things combine to form citrate. So conveniently enough, we call the Krebs cycle the citric acid cycle as well. And so the only reason I'm introducing these is because it's important kind of to know that they're all intertwined, that you have to have acetyl-CoA to make citrate, and then you're going to have this oxaloacetate that's combining to form citrate as well. That's where we get the name. The other thing to note about this oxaloacetate is this is what we're going to end up making at the end of the cycle. So that allows the cycle to continue as long as we're adding acetyl-CoA. So then the only other things I put in here are CO2, because if you remember the cellular respiration equation, we put sugar and oxygen into the process, and we get carbon dioxide, water, and ATP out. So here's one of your products. This product will actually show up in the equation. So then other intermediates that we get out of this step, we get NADH. Remember that this is reduced, so we are adding electrons and a hydrogen ion here, so this has potential energy. The other intermediate we're going to make is FADH2, similar case, right? We're adding electrons and hydrogen ions, so we have potential energy. And then the only other thing that's coming out is another one of our reactants, ATP, and we're going to get 2 molecules of this out of the citric acid cycle. So those are really only, I didn't circle this or square this, NADH, so we have more up here. But you don't need to worry even about how many times this process is happening with the NADH. I just want you to know we're getting these intermediates out, and I just want you to know that the CO2 and the ATP that are actually in our cell resp equation, those products are coming out of this particular step. So then we're going to see this NADH and this FADH2 going on to oxidative phosphorylation in the next video.